No, I'm just kidding. Oh boy, oh howdy. Would you look at the time? 2:13 p.m. 3 hours until my upcoming Deathwatch session. And I want to make one of my favorite pals his model for Tabletop Simulator based on the following reference image created in Chapter Generator. However shall I do that? Let me tell you how you do that. You're going to need 3 objects for this tutorial. You are going to need Blender. You are going to need the Dawn of War mod in question, in which you wish to rip assets from. In this case, I'm going to be using Unification. You can also use Ultimate Apocalypse, but I've mostly grabbed the content that I've needed from Unification. And you're going to be using an image editing software of your choice. In my case, it is going to be Paint.net. On top of this, you're also going to need 3 add-ons mostly for Blender, but also for the image editing. First of all, you're going to need Blender Dawn of War to import the Dawn of War models into Blender. This actually includes documentation for how to install it. I believe it's here. Yes. I didn't really need to follow this, but it's really easy. Just follow that if you've never installed a Blender plugin before. Next, in the case of Unification, you will notice when you initially download it, you will have all of these SGA files that you will not be able to open. These are just the archives that they use to store their stuff in. You're going to need some kind of way to open these. I believe this tutorial actually gives you a different tool to open these. I haven't used this one. I used this one. It's probably much older and maybe a little buggier, but it's worked for me. Haven't had any problems with it. And finally, for image editing, you are going to need Dawn of War Texture Tool. This is basically, it puts like the Army Painter colors that you would see obviously in the Army Painter, and like the decals, like the banners, all that stuff. It will like bake them into the texture. So this would be very useful for image editing. But once you have all of these installed and ready to go, it's time to open up Blender. So here we have Blender. We're just going to make a new file for right now. Obviously, delete the cube as is tradition. And when you first come in, you're going to want to go to Preferences. You're going to want to go to Add-ons. Find the Dawn of War mod in question. You're going to probably want to enable it. And then you want to point the mod folder at where your mod is. So for me, I have a separate decompiled folder within Unification that I have all this stuff in. By the way, for decompiling Unification stuff, I would only start with the core files, like core art only, the attribute I don't think you really have to worry about. And then if you really want like this is salamanders, this is space wolves, if you want that stuff, then you can port that in separately. But just to start, grab the core files. I don't think it actually comes with any of the Space Marine stuff by default. But once you have this pointed at the data folder, which is going to contain all your art, or just before the data folder, you want to hit accept, and you are ready to start importing. So, before we even load like the first model, let's take a look back at this guy and see what kind of assets we want to grab. So, obviously he's a Mark IV. We have the helmet for that. We have the rangefinder. That's pretty common on a lot of like the tacticals and like Devastators and all that. This isn't actually the rocket launcher he's using. It's like a Horus Heresy one. It's like Corvus. It's technically a Mark II, but we have a Mark I. I think that I found, if I put in the right folder. This cape we can grab from the Force Commander, and there's an interesting thing with that about the Force Commander has like a different armature. I'll get into it when we get to it. What is it? The Death Watch pauldron's easy, and then coloring that is just coloring that. And that's pretty much everything. Yeah, as far as like, yeah, that's pretty much everything. So, let's start on our initial model. When you first start, you're going to want to go to Import, Dawn of War Model. And I think initially it's going to start you probably here, I would assume, but the models are all located in Data, Art, EDPs, Races, and then in most cases, for most of my cases, you probably want to just go with Space Marines, Troops, and then whatever troop you want for this. So I guess in most cases you want to go with Tactical. You could do Kekolius usually has some like new assets that you can like enable or disable. So depending on what you want, let's say it's a Tactical, double click this. It's going to take a second to load. Don't worry too much about these warnings. Yeah, none of these are really of concern. It might flash a couple now and then, but as long as you can see the model, and as long as there's no white, you should be good. If you do see white textures, actually let me load an example where you can see that. I think the Force Commander is a good one. Yeah, okay. So if you see white textures like this, it's probably pulling from base Dawn of War, or there's some kind of issue with pulling the mod textures. Unfortunately, I can't really help with that, but I'm sure the Blender Dawn of War mod GitHub will have some instructions about how to tackle that. But unfortunately, I can't help with it. Most unification mods do not have this problem. But anyway, okay, so in our case, I already know where the Mark IV is, so we're going to go to 13th Company, Troops, and I am going to go to the, yeah, this one. Give it a second to load. Don't worry about any of these. And here it is. You'll notice he's in a weird pose. I'll show you how to fix that in a second. But just for now, let's remove the stuff we don't need. So we're not going to need this banner. So I'm just going to click on this, find where it is, and this little, this is just going to hide the model. This little eyeball. So we're just going to go around and just clear up the stuff that we don't need. Okay, so we have our Mark IV. Now let's get him out of this, he's in an animation right now, like a swinging thing. Most of them will come as T-poses, but sometimes they come like this. Way to fix it is you want to scroll down to the armature. You're going to want to view this. Click on it, make sure it's yellow and not orange. And what I like to do actually while I'm here is click down to this, go to Viewport Display, and display as, if you think these are too obstructive for the view, you can go down to, instead of octahedral, click stick, and this will just kind of hide them. There's a few other options in here. A lot of them I've never used. I just click on stick. Then you're going to want to click up here and go down to pose mode and hit A to select every bone in the armature. Go to pose, clear transform in all, and you will be in a good T pose. So now that we're here, we can hide that again. Let's look back at our model and just, again, we're going to want, like, ignoring the texture and everything, we'll get to that. We're going to want this rangefinder. We're actually going to want to get rid of the skull, because he's in... Okay. The skull is attached on, so actually now is a good time to talk about either adding or removing parts from a model that you like. In this case, we want to get rid of the skull. So, in most cases, all you'd want to do is have the object selected, yellow, not orange, and then you want to go down to Edit Mode, and here we can edit the mesh of the model. So, I think by default it's going to have the vertex mode. Just a quick explanation, the vertex is every point on a triangle. These are all going to come as triangles. Edge, obviously, every line connecting a triangle, and then face, every face of a triangle. So, we're just going to want to go ahead and get rid of some of these. So we're just going to go ahead and delete this. So place yourself in a good position. Go ahead and select drag, grab the faces you want, hit the delete key, and I would delete, if you delete vertices, sometimes what it does is it'll delete more of the edges than you want. In these cases, if you want to just delete specifically this, hit face. I think there's actually another, is there another skull on this guy? I'm not entirely sure. Let's just get rid of this first. I think there might be a second helmet. There is. Some models have this where it's just like multiple helmets for no reason. So yeah, there you go. We have it deleted. I guess just to show it in a more clear sense. Like this, like so. And we now no longer have the skull on top of the head, which matches our model. I guess the next thing to think about would be the weapon. I think would be the easiest. As I've said, I've already found this. For right now, however, I'm going to save our model. Just real quick. I already have the, what's it called, folder set up for it, so we're just going to call him Kador, because that's the name of the guy we're making this for. Or the character, rather. And we are going to import our model that we have already found for the rocket launcher. Okay, I finally found it. So just to show how I normally import a model for the rocket launcher, I found it in Imperial Fists Troops, and it is the Siege Devastator. So here we have, this is the rocket launcher in question that we want. So what I'll do is literally just hit Control C, and then I will go back into our project. Don't need to save any changes, and I'll just hit Control V, and it'll include the textures. Sometimes, like you just saw when I imported the FBX beforehand, it forgot to place the textures on there. I think that was just a problem on my part. But also, as we paste this in, you will see that there is another armature. This is the armature from the model that we just copied from. To get this weapon to go into the armature of this model, we want to go ahead and go to modifiers. You'll see that the armature is .001. That's the one we just imported. We want to set it to just armature, and it should snap right into place. Sometimes it won't, and you'll just have to position it manually. But I'm also noticing that as we've reloaded this guy, the animation did not save. This is a problem we're going to have with posing. Good that it happened now and not before we did a lot of work to pose our guy. So what we're going to want to go ahead and do is we'll just go to like keyframe. Actually, we'll go back to keyframe 0. As we did before, armature, select it, make sure it's yellow. Go to pose mode. If it isn't already selected, hit A to select all. Pose clears transform all. It's back in the T pose. Now to save it, you want to hit, I believe it is I. Let me just check that that was actually what it was. It is I, yes. And then you can freely save. And now if we reload it, it will save the model. I know it just disappeared, the rocket launcher that we have. It's still there. This is another problem that comes with porting assets. Especially, I've noticed every time you put this model onto a different armature, sometimes it'll disappear. Very simple fix. Go to shading. You want to, I like to delete multiply, UV map, and UV offset, and it should reappear. Those just edit the alpha value. I don't really think too much otherwise about how the shading works for this Blender plugin, but now we have a rocket launcher once more. So we have a rocket launcher. and we'll be able to pose that up shortly. But just thinking about the rest of the assets we need to get, I'm concerned about this cape right now, and I actually know exactly where to get that now. So we're going to import a new model. We've saved, so we're going to import a new model. We are going to actually just go back to Space Marines and get the Force Commander. Yeah, just the standard Force Commander should do. Yep, cape's there. There's actually 2 capes. We won't need this one. This will do just fine. We're going to copy paste as we did before. Copy it. Go back to Khador. Paste it. And what you'll notice is it'll actually be a little more apparent if I bring back this armature and start hiding this one. You'll notice that there are a few extra bones on this one for the cape. And you're probably thinking, how can we get these bones for the cape onto the armature that we already have? Very good question. So you're going to want to select the armature of what you just imported. You're going to want to go to Edit Mode, and you are going to want to select all of the bones related to the cape. It should be, make sure you don't select anything. It's Control left click to deselect objects, and Shift left click to select more than one. Yeah, it should be all of them. You're going to want to hit, oh, if I can remember off the top of my head, otherwise this is another cut. Go ahead and hit P, and you'll know it worked because you'll have a second armature. That should just be the ones that you have selected, as you can see. And now what we want to do is to place it onto the main armature. We're going to want to select the ones that we just separated, and we're going to want to hit Control click to select the main armature. Make sure the main armature is, you'll see like a little box around the armature icon, and the name will be in yellow. That means it's like the main object selected. This is just like, I don't know, a side object selected. And you're going to want to go ahead and hit, is it M? No. Is it, oh, it's Control J to join them. And now this is a part of your main mesh, but I do not believe you are done yet. You have to go back to Edit Mode. So, as you can see for most of the bones, they have most of them have a parent that they refer to, and this is just like, so when you rotate them, they actually follow where they need to. Let's get rid of this guy, this is getting annoying. They follow where they need to, so the leg's connected to the pelvis, pelvis is connected to this is like the main bone, this is connected to the neck, but however, these are not connected to anything, so we actually want to go back to our main model and see where these are connected to. So going back to the Force Commander mesh, you can see if we go down to bones and relations, the parent bone is BIP01 spine 2. So we're just going to want to go ahead and remember that. Yeah, BIP01 spine 2 on all of these top ones. So we're going to want to go back to our main thing, go to these, BIP01, spine 2. Remember to copy this and paste it to all of them. Okay, and just to make sure we've done it right, let's go into pose mode. Select, really any of these would work. Go to rotate and just give them a quick shake. Make sure it's the way it should be. Yeah, the cloak itself isn't actually connected. We had to do the same thing we did for this, which is to connect it to the armature. So it's armature.001 connected to the regular armature. And now if we select this and go to pose, it should follow. Yes. Okay. So we have a cloak. We will give that the proper camo paint and everything soon. But going back to this, Actually, let's tackle the legs. I think we already have those. Some of these come with more than one. Yeah, that works. Alright, legs done. So let's get the rangefinder. I may have already actually found this. FBX. Does this come with the textures? No, it does not. Okay, back to the Siege Devastator. Here is the target finder we're going to be using. Control C as before. And we're going to go back to Khador. Control V. Same process as before. Make sure this guy is connected to the right armature. Delete this one. While we're at it, let's delete this old one. Delete this old one that we no longer need anymore. You should be good to go. Select this armature. Pose. Select the head, the neck. That works. Give it a shake. Make sure it works. He is connected. Okay. We have our rangefinder. Oh, the cave's hidden again. Same trick with the shading, where you go multiply, delete the UV map and UV offset, and he appears once again. May as well just do the same on this one, just to make sure it won't disappear on us. It's being really inconsistent today. Usually you just delete the armature and it immediately disappears, but sometimes it sneaks up on you. One thing that sometimes happens that I'm just seeing here is that the cape is slightly off-center. This can happen sometimes. I guess since this is after the fact, let's go to Edit, select these bones, and if we move this, it should move the rest of the cape. It did not. It doesn't need to be perfect because this is just going to Tabletop Sim and we're not going to animate too much of the cape anyway. Not perfect, but it'll do. Save our work. So now's probably a good time to start on texture. So to start with, let's just select one of these guys and we will see that is Initiate Unit 2, and I think one of these is just Initiate Unit. We're just going to start with this texture for now. We open our Dawn of War texture tool. Normally you won't see this, it'll be on basic mode, but you just set it to advanced. And we are going to set the army colors. So, we're going to start with a base of the Death Watch colors. So, you can load in the team colors, Space Marine race, and Death Watch right here. It'll reset the badge and banner. Sometimes this program kind of freaks out if you don't put an image for these. So, badge, it can literally be anything. This guy and this guy, doesn't matter. We're not going to need the badge for this anyway. This is just going to be the base. To actually apply the army paint to the texture, you want to hit Compile TGA. But just to briefly say, I don't use many of these. I think, yeah, this one, basically what this will do is for every color option that you have in the team color settings, it will like individually show you which part of the model will be, or which part of the texture will be colored that way. So like on a lot of like the Mark 7 Aquillas you see on like the Tactical Marines and all that on their chest, those are actually colored I think by like weapon instead of like trim, so it'll help you spot stuff like that. But anyway, this is how we want it. Compile TGA. We're going to go down to Initiate Unit. Not in here, I believe it is in 13th Company. Texture Share. Initiate Unit. There it is. And while we're in here, we may as well do also Initiate Unit 2. Make sure you have a program that can actually open TGA files as well. I think DDS files, sometimes you also need to open, if that's right. I think this is the output for that. No, it's just TGA. Okay, so just anything that opens TGAs will work. I'm just going to go ahead and open these and bring it over here so you can see it. So we have this one in Death Watch colors and this one also in Death Watch colors. I also want to get, from this model, we have this little green pauldron here, and I want to get that. We're going to, throw it over top the Deathwatch colors. Raptors, there it is. And banner can be anything, doesn't matter for us. Save that. Pow TGA. For the pauldron, we're going to want just initiate unit. So, this is just basic, you know, image editing at this point. And where is the trimming? Actually, where is the trimming? Let's find that out. So, on the model, let's say if you ever wanted to know where something was, just select the object you want, go to UV editing, and then hit A. Also, another thing, it flips all the textures vertically, so we're going to need to also do that. That should be good. Yeah, that's good for now. So let's go ahead and import this texture. So we're going to want to go ahead and go to Material, go to Base. It's going to be loading this is like a cache texture that it has loaded. We actually want to go to UV editing or texture paint, doesn't matter. Image, open here, and this is the one that we had. Also, while you're here, if you do want to actually see the textures as you work with the UV editing, just expand this out and then click this one, which is going to show the textured shading of everything. This is just the flat geometry. And we have not applied the texture just yet, we've just loaded it into Blender. So for that, we're going to want to go to down here, initiate unit, and down here to, we're going to search for the texture we just put in, which is kador.png, and it should apply to most of the models. You'll notice that this pauldron is actually on the wrong side. This is going to be for pretty much all of them in the case of Deathwatch, so you're just going to want to delete the ones on the right hand side here. And select this. Make sure that they should all point to this like origin. The origin of this mesh should always be at like the origin of your project. And then go to Object, Mirror, X Global, yes, X Global, and we have the Raptor pauldron in the correct place. One other thing you should do, go to Data, Space Marine shoulder pad left, change that to right. Always to test if it worked, go to Pose Mode, grab, yeah, that'll work, and just move it, make sure it moves with the rest of the thing. It does. I guess at this point we should get the Deathwatch pauldron. I just grabbed this from my previous projects. I guess I'll provide maybe a link to this one in the description, but we'll just go to this guy here, grab this, copy it, go back to our project, paste. I know it is exactly 0.15 meters in the air, so bring that down. Same process as before, where you set the armature to the correct place. Delete the new one, should be up here. You can also delete this random stuff. Won't need any of these markers, won't need the lights. Make sure it is set to the right group. That should be good. Always the test. Make sure you go to pose mode. Select something like this. It's good to go. Let's also set this guy since we already made it. Same process as before. Open the... Oh no, because we didn't save it. And let's load that in. Apply it to the model. .png. And there we have it. So just skipping ahead, I did some basic image edits. I added the camo texture onto the cape, and I was just adding the red onto this target finder when I noticed that it's pointing to the Devastator unit from the regular Space Marine thing and not from the Initiate unit, which has the same texture. So I guess now would be a good time to talk about how to edit UVs. So first you want to select the object in question. You want to go to UV editing and press A to select all of these UVs. And then you're going to want to go ahead and just simply move them into place. I'm actually going to drag select these ones that seem like they're going to fit right over here, and just drag them in as best you can. You can kind of see it moving over on the right hand side there, and just make sure you can get it slotted into place. It's actually not, this is actually scrolling across the Devastator texture that this is originally drawing from, which is why it looks kind of weird. But just kind of get that into place there, and then go down to here, or actually go up to here, and this is Initiate Unit 2 that we're working on, so find Initiate Unit 2, and apply it like so, and it looks a little weird, which has me concerned, but that should be lined up. Now why is that not working? Is it the same problem with the shading? Perhaps so. It looks like it's invisible. Yes. Okay, but the I'm glad those tubes also applied. So this is pretty much, I guess besides the arm here, let me just go ahead and quickly add that. So worth noting that when we port this to Tabletop Simulator, we are going to be doing so as a model. And the way that Tabletop Simulator models work is that you are only allowed to import one texture for your model. And as you can see, we have multiple textures related to our model, so we are going to have to shrink these into one. The best way that, or the way that I normally do it, is you take the whatever base texture you want to start with, you just resize the canvas to be like double the size. The way unification textures are is they're upscaled, so most of the vanilla textures are going to be like half the size. Put it in like the top left, and then literally most people will tell you like, oh, for I don't know, let's say for Initiate Unit 2, we're only using this amount of the texture and this, so like surely we'd only have to put in these objects. We don't need to worry about like this shield or this cape or anything else. And you're right. However, bear in mind these files are pretty small in size, and so while it is kind of it is a little bit cumbersome to place in this entire file, it doesn't really mean a lot in terms of file size. And so that's what I normally do, is I literally just import the entire texture sheet, and I just drag it over to the side, make sure it's not clipping into the other texture, and then we will move this UV mesh when we eventually compile this this image to match over here, and we don't really lose anything outside of trying to translate it over to its new spot. So I'm just going to go ahead and add all of the layers that we need. The other cool thing about this is, let's say you want to add something else to your model. You have all of this space to work with before you need to worry about expanding the canvas again. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is pretty much everything our model currently consists of. So, I like to save this as a separate thing. Call it full.pdn, and then we'll make this a PNG. And now what we are going to do is the process of remapping our current textures to that one combined texture. Let's start with this. So, well, first we need to put the image into this project. Full, and we are going to point this at full, That moved things. It did not move things, they're just invisible now. One thing that is nice to do is selecting... Okay, we can get rid of this armature actually. Okay, select all of these objects and then go to, I believe it is edit mode? And is it M? Give me one sec. You select one of the faces that you know is the material that you are trying to set. You hit Shift G and select similar by material. And we have now selected every object that has the material initiate_unit. You are then going to go to UV editing, hit A to select everything. You're going to want to size this down. The weird thing about UVs is like it tries to map itself to the scale of the image. Because we know we doubled this, we just need to scale it down to 0.5. So we'll just do that. Don't need to worry about the Z because it's a flat texture. And we're just going to want to shift it into place as best we can. Try to line it up with something that you know is going to be small enough to like specifically line it up to, if that makes any sense. And then just do the best you can to align it. That looks pretty good. I'm noticing this is a little to the side. Maybe we can shift it like so. That's probably okay. Yeah, that's probably good. And, you know, just visually look around, make sure it's as it should be. It looks like it is. I like to rename this to just to keep things easy. And we'll just go across each of these different models and do our normal trick. Some of these will point into like weird locations, like this is meant to just be like some black, just put it there, it doesn't matter. Line this up the best you can. And yeah, same kind of process for pretty much all of them. You will know you are done when you can select all of the objects in the scene by hitting A, going to edit mode, selecting any of the faces and hitting Shift G, material, and you are selecting the entire model. If the torso looks different, that's because there are actually multiple torsos selected on the on this, so I just brought it down to one, and then I got rid of this halberd thing. So we are pretty much good to go as far as materials go, and we are now on to the process of posing our character. So, actually before I do this, I'm going to add a base to our guy here. And I already have one set up, so we're going to go ahead and just import that. I believe it is in FBX. Should be in MISC. Maybe not. Maybe it's in this one. Maybe not. Maybe it's an object file, actually. Yep, here's our base. And I know from experience that this is, I need to move my unit by 0.15 units upward. So whenever you want to move your entire unit, make sure you have the armature not hidden. Select everything besides the base and move it up by 0.15 units. If you don't do this and you don't have the armature selected, if you try to move it upwards, everything will kind of, it's not doing it on this one, but sometimes like random objects will jut out. It's not what you're looking for. You want everything to line up anyway, so just go ahead and do that. To 0.15, there we go. And now we begin posing. So, just as before, when we wanted to get this T-pose, make sure as you're editing, well actually we're gonna keep this T-pose. We're gonna go to 1. We're gonna hit A. Same thing as before, clear transform. We are going to hit I to save our progress and hit Control S. Make sure you always hit I when you want to save, otherwise you will I have lost multiple times different poses because I didn't hit the I key before I saved. So don't make my mistake, but anyway, I guess we're gonna pose this guy now. I'm thinking about, I've done a rocket launcher pose before. I want to get, kind of hard to see with the armature in the way, but this over the shoulder, I don't know what this hand's gonna be doing. I'll probably just put it like holding on to this thing. This is where I kind of like to get inspiration from like the actual Warhammer miniatures to see what kind of pose I'm going to get. But anyway, I suppose now I'm going to try to just quickly time-lapse that. Oh, one other thing I should say is when you are manipulating this armature for the sake of posing, I would only use rotate, and I would set the orientation to local so that you aren't getting like weird poses. But anyway, yeah, I found my reference image, and here we go. Okay, I think this is probably a good pose, so as always, we are going to go to our pose mode. Select arm. Hit A to select all the bones. Hit I, save. Make sure it actually did save. It did. And I think at this point, actually let's retexture this, so get out of pose mode. Go here. I ripped this from a white scar, so let's get the. What I like to do with these, I like to put the. I like to just borrow from the pauldron. First of all, let's actually set this to the right texture. Yeah, hit A here, and then hit A over here. So you select everything. Grab from this guy. Shrink this down to about, that's probably good. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, save it. Now for importing into TTS, you are going to want to select everything with A. Go to File, Export, OBJ. I include selection only. I tend to remove materials. It just creates a file that you're not going to end up using. And if you, yeah, just hit export. If you had any other poses, you would rotate between them now, and you would hit A, File, Export, OBJ, Selection, and all that. You really want to make sure that you are only selecting the objects that you want that are relevant. So if you hit Control A, you do that. I think that's just about everything. Actually, I'm noticing. No way, because that's okay. Yeah, and I think we are now ready to import to Tabletop Sim. So I'll see you there. Once you're in, you're going to want to go ahead and go to Objects, Components, Custom, and Model. Place one in. For Model and Mesh, you're going to find the OBJ that you have just created. So that's going to be right here. You can make it local in this stage, but I'm just going to go ahead and bring it straight to cloud under Deathwatch. Next, you're going to find your image. This is going to be the full image that we have created. Also upload back to cloud under Deathwatch. And the collider, which I've already created. This one is just going to be the... You don't technically need this, but I have already created one that is just the base. And we're just going to use that. Actually, I don't need to do this because I've already made it. Okay, and make sure in material you set the specular intensity to 0. And we have our model. So, with 20 minutes to spare before the session, we have created a character. Look at him. He looks great. So yeah, that should be everything. If I missed out on any specific tips or tricks in Blender, I will be sure to make some kind of follow-up recording to that, or just help people out individually. But yeah, that's how you do it.